2006, I had become a freelance writer, and I was scrambling for ideas. And I saw a small item in a newspaper somewhere, it could have been the New York Times, about this manuscripts, ancient manuscripts of Timbuktu and the region that had fallen sort of off the planet, disappeared, and were being rediscovered and renovated and given showcases in libraries. Libraries were being built. A couple of librarians, curators, restorers were rediscovering these books, these great old manuscripts, and bringing them to the light of day. So this was my excuse. Back I went to the Smithsonian, back I went to Timbuktu about a week later. And this is, whoops, sorry. So this is the man that I met, who would later be the sort of essential figure in my book. This man is known as Al-Qaeda. So who was Al-Qaeda? Well, he became my conduit to this, opened up this world for me. He was a librarian, he is and was a librarian, the librarian of Timbuktu. He had devoted his life from the time he was a young man to, as I said, rediscovering these manuscripts that had been created during the golden age of Timbuktu, 15th and 16th centuries. Whoops. Okay, back to that original picture. Let's talk a little bit about these manuscripts and what they were. So as I said, in the 15th and 16th centuries, Timbuktu was a vital center of Middle East and Africa. It was a place where trade routes came together, bringing together the Saharan camel caravans from across the Sahara came and met barges and boats coming up the Niger River. It was located at the highest point of the Niger River in West Africa. So you had this very serendipitous spot where river met desert. And as a result, traders from around the world converged on the city. Gold was the main means of payment. Incredible wealth traded hands, enriched the emperor, the various emperors at the time. It was said that the Mansa Musa, the emperor in the 13th and 14th century, made the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj, in the early 14th century, and spent so much gold, which he carried with him on the backs of slaves and camels, that he depressed the price of gold throughout the world for the next 12 years. So, incredible wealth. At the same time, there began in about the 14th century this trade in manuscripts. In fact, Leo Africanus, who was the famous traveler and travel writer from the early 16th century, arrived in the city and marveled at not only at the commerce that was going on in the city, but also at the wealth of knowledge that was changing hands through these beautiful manuscripts, one of which is here. This, I believe, is a Quran from the early 16th century, and this is one of the more extraordinary examples. You can see there are similarities to the great illuminated manuscripts of the Italian Renaissance, the same sort of use of gold leaf, incredibly intricate pattern, because of course Islam prohibited the use of the representation of human forms, but there was no prohibitions at all on the incredible design. And there were also some representations, if you look through these books, of mosques and minarets and landscapes. You don't see any human forms, but you do just see these marvelous designs. So Qurans were kind of the major manuscript that was kind of high of the sayings of the prophet. What was also extraordinary about this period in Timbuktu was the outpouring of secular works as well. Some of them were imported. For instance, they translated all the works of the Greek philosophers into Arabic. That was the main language, not the only language. There was also, believe it or not, books of Hebrew, small Jewish population there. There were other local languages, but the calligraphy was almost all in Arabic, and these other languages were transliterated into Arabic. As I've said, so you have the works of Hippocrates, Aristotle, Plato translated into Arabic for this audience. You had love poetry, you had guides to better sex, you had music, books about music, you had drama, you had astronomy, traditional medicine, jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence, secular jurisprudence, an incredible wealth of subject matter that kind of mixed together almost unconsciously religious and secular subjects. Leo Africanus visited the city in 1507, and he talked about, hey, these people are, I thought they're Islamic, but they're like out all night, partying in the streets, they're singing and they're dancing along the Niger River, having a good time. Another observer said that the only recognition of Islam that he saw was that they celebrate, they fasted Ramadan, and they go to church, they go to mosque on Friday, pray mosque on Friday. Which is pretty much, if you know a lot of, if you traveled at all in the Middle East and met a lot of Muslims and kind of, from the laid back guys, you kind of hear that. Yeah, we celebrate Ramadan, and yeah, maybe we go to mosque on, on Friday for Friday afternoon prayer. So it was a pretty relaxed interpretation of Islam. It was the Sufi version of Islam, which is mystical, which originated in North Africa, which also spread to Afghanistan. The people like to sing, the people like to dance, they like to worship saints. It's a very it's the cool Islam. All right. So the quick story about Al-Qaeda as he filled me in, and this extraordinary biography he began to unload on me during this trip. This was what ended up being a 5-day trip to Timbuktu. Was that Abdul Qadir was the son of a librarian, a scholar, and a businessman. His father was a businessman as well. He discovered his father had a collection of manuscripts, thousands of these books. So from the time he was a kid, he remembers his father at the madrasa that he ran in the vestibule of his home, bringing out these manuscripts from a storage room. And Abdul Qadir got kind of entranced by this stuff, without really knowing what it was. But as time went on, he began to learn the history of these manuscripts and why there was this kind of air of mystery and secrecy about them. And what he discovered was that over the years, over the centuries, the Moroccans had invaded Timbuktu, the plague that hit Timbuktu, jihadists in the 19th century had come to Timbuktu, pretty much finishing the city off as an intellectual and economic center. And the manuscripts, as a result of that decline, pretty much vanished. They made their way out of the city, distributed among heirs of some of the wealthy, learned families, dispersed deeper and deeper into the desert, tucked away in chests, forgotten about. And the French arrived in Bamako in 1884 with this dream of creating a kind of, it was rather a grandiose, improbable dream of turning this region of Africa into the next India, I believe, Louis Fayette, I think, one of the early governors of French West Sudan, dreams of this. And so the idea was that they would use the Niger River as their vehicle for extending their control across northern Africa as far away as Cairo. So they made it to Timbuktu in about 1894. A group of French soldiers under the command of the French, perhaps General Dallaire, remember, so I'm talking about the commander-in-chief of the forces in France in World War I. I think his name escapes me. He's in my book, but anyway, Joffre, exactly. Joffre led a group of several hundred soldiers into Timbuktu to conquer the city. Over the next 20, 30 years, the French dispersed around the region, taming the Tuaregs, colonizing the Tuaregs, seizing control, taking some of these manuscripts, basically ripping them off and bringing them back to Paris, as every colonial power has done, the British or whoever else, and the Germans, you name it. That's sort of the standard modus operandi. Take the books, move them off to the European capital. So people got very scared, and they got very frightened of any sort of governments. French soldiers or the Malian government, which took power in 1960, became independent. And so the books pretty much disappeared. Nobody really knew what happened. They'd forgotten about. By 1963, this idea that Africans were illiterates with no history was raised. This had been an idea raised in the Enlightenment originally, but it was raised again by historians, so on the BBC and elsewhere. So this great manuscript tradition of Africa, North Africa, and Timbuktu was pretty much just forgotten. So along comes Abdul Qadir Hyder, who was charged with basically through the government library, which started out in the early 70s under UNESCO sponsorship and funding from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Al-Qaeda was charged with finding these manuscripts. And he set out on this journey that ended up being 12 years long, which I documented in the first part of my book, as he set out on camel, on riverboats, on foot, tracking these manuscripts down across the north, this vast area, about the size of France. One guy, camels, on foot, and boat, tracking down manuscripts wherever he heard they might exist. So he did this, and he was remarkably successful at this. He tracked down, over the course of 12 years, personally tracked down about 50,000 of these manuscripts, created a government library, then created his own library, and at the same time encouraged other collectors to create their own libraries and pretty much do the same thing that he was doing, reach out to their families, track down brothers and sisters and other heirs of these books, bring them all together into Timbuktu. By the time I visited in 2006, made this trip up to the Smithsonian, there were 350,000 manuscripts that had been reassembled in Timbuktu. There were libraries. Al-Qaeda's library was like something you might find on, Madison Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, or anywhere in Paris. I mean, it had a lot of money behind it. Ford Foundation, sponsors in Dubai, several other big American European foundations, all pouring money into the city in Al-Qaeda. So you would walk into this beautiful limestone building with glass exhibition cases, all vacuum sealed and climate controlled, air conditioned, beautiful building. These wonderful manuscripts on display, and you would just, the changes in Timbuktu from my first visit in '95 and the time I came back in 2006 were extraordinary. So you really have this renaissance going on in that city, which is really amazing to see. I went back again in 2008, and again, not only was the city thriving because of this manuscript trade, but you had an explosion of music. Malian music had begun to spread around the world. There was people like Sabi, who's a Malian music fan here, but Sabi Keita, Ali Farka Touré, names that really transcended Africa and became quite popular in the West. Were giving concerts. There was a big concert series called the Festival in the Desert. So when I showed up in 2008 for that festival, there were like 5,000 foreigners in Timbuktu. It was like, what? I mean, there were 5 hotels, you couldn't get a room. There were 4x4s, heading out to the desert, partying for 4 days. They call it the African Woodstock. And then people who could not, you would finish up at the festival and come back into town, check out the manuscripts, and just be kind of astonished at how Timbuktu had transformed itself in the course of 10 years. So 2008 was my last visit to Timbuktu before the troubles began. Beginning at around 2003, you had a kind of counterpoint to the cultural renaissance of Timbuktu, which was the rise of Islamic extremism. There had been a very brutal civil war in Algeria that unleashed radical Islam in North Africa. After that war ended around the turn of the millennium, you had a lot of radical Islamists coming down from Algeria, reestablishing themselves in the desert of northern Mali, which was poorly guarded, poor security. The Malian army was not one of the finest armies in the world, although we, the United States, and the French tried over the years to improve it by pouring a lot of money in. But the jihadists, beginning in 2003, they pulled off a spectacular kidnapping of about 35 Westerners, most all of them French, German, Dutch. I think they were French, might not have been French. Germans made up the most. They were tourists traveling through the southern Algerian desert, and they were grabbed by the Salafist group who were preaching in combat, the precursor to Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. And they were taken into Mali, held there in a desert canyon for many, many weeks before the German government agreed to turn over what I believe has been reported as a €5 million ransom. This was only the beginning because over the next 7, 8 years, you had dozens more kidnappings, you had drug running, you had the amassing of a fortune by these jihadists who were operating pretty freely. Even as this flourishing culture was going on side by side with this, it was really sort of a remarkable double-track, parallel story happening there. Very few people who visited the country at the time were even aware of this Al-Qaeda faction that was growing in strength, but it was there. I don't even remember in 2008 being told to worry. I think maybe there's some banditry out there, you have to be careful, but Al-Qaeda was not mentioned. It was just, I don't recall in a 3-week trip that year, I don't recall that ever coming up in conversation. We heard about Tuareg rebels, the nomads who were occasionally rising up against the government. They were a secular group, and we heard that they were always a potential source of unrest. But Al-Qaeda is not in the headlines. Until 2011, when the Arab Spring broke out, and one after another, Tunisia, Egypt, and then Libya went up in flames. As you know, Gaddafi fell thanks to NATO bombings and combined with rebel uprising. In August, I believe he was killed in August, outside, all right?
Gaddafi was killed in
October, okay, October. But even before Gaddafi was killed, chaos had descended on the country and armories were open. The Libyan military had pretty much fragmented and disappeared to a large extent. And so these rebel groups, both these Tuaregs and Al-Qaeda, began going into these armories, seizing weapons, and bringing them back to Mali. So now they were wealthy, they had all that ransom money, they were looking to expand and control territory, and now they were heavily armed as well. So in the fall of 2011, you had all of this dramatic stuff going on in the desert. People were in denial about it. Meanwhile, the jihadis and the Tuaregs, who combined force, probably only a couple of thousand fighters all in all, but with this incredible array of heavy weaponry, ranging from manpads, from missile launchers and anti-aircraft missiles to rocket-propelled grenades, mortars, machine guns, AK-47s, and millions of rounds of ammunition, or hundreds of thousands anyway. They were far superior to whatever the Malian military and government could offer. And over the course of 3 months, between January and April 2012, they swept across Mali. They took one military camp after another. At some point, the government, in March, the government fell. You had a kind of ill-educated army captain taking over, and things really went to hell after that. The army completely collapsed. And by April, Timbuktu had been seized, and a territory the size of France had fallen under the control of jihadists. This was really an unprecedented event. Of course, if you look now at the Islamic State and what they've accomplished with the conquest, beginning with the conquest of Mosul and the rest of it, and much of Syria and Iraq, it's sort of old hat by now. But we have to remember that this was unheard of. I mean, you had, yes, in Yemen, you had a small area of southern Yemen near Aden being taken over and declared a caliphate, but no jihadist army had ever taken control of almost the entire country before. So this was an unheard of event, and I remember I had been, I probably followed Mali more than most people because of my contacts and people like Harvard, but I was in Berlin at the time, and I remember just being completely shocked that this had happened. And one of my first thoughts was of what has happened to Hydra, and what has happened to those manuscripts, because anybody who knew anything about those manuscripts would be aware that much of what the content, the ideology, the religious attitude in those, encapsulated in many of those books, is something that would be really antithetical to what the Salafist jihadists would stand for. So I definitely wondered what was going on. I imagined that maybe these books were being buried in the desert. I knew something was going on. I was sure of it, intuitively, but I didn't know what. So I had to wait a while because this jihadist control went on for about 8 months. And then in January 2013, the jihadists overreached and they tried to conquer the rest of Mali. At which point, that pushed things a little too far. Of course, Francois Hollande was always and Obama and others that were watching the situation, and there was discussion and intervention going on for quite a while. There was the idea of putting up an African force. It never really seemed to gain the momentum. Nothing really seemed to coalesce until January 2013, when the rest of the country was threatened with the jihadist takeover, including the major airports. And this would have been sort of an unthinkable event. So as we probably all know, being in France, in rapid succession, the French army went in there and swept through the country, took over Timbuktu, sent the jihadists running out of the urban areas, off to a very remote corner of the country, where most of them were finished off, thanks to some excellent military operation. Of course, wasn't perfect, so that's the grand story. My story, of course, is a smaller one told in the context of this, which is about what happened to those manuscripts. It took me until late 2000. I was there in 2013 in January. I made another trip back to Mali. I traveled with the French up into, I didn't make it, actually, we were blocked by the Malian army from getting any further than the original front line between the north, between occupied territory and government territory. But as I was there, I was listening to the radio and Timbuktu was being liberated. We heard that manuscripts had been burned. We didn't really know the details, but obviously lots of thinking was focused on those manuscripts. It was only about 7 months later that the full story began to trickle out, and who was of course in the center of it all, but Al-Qaeda, who, as I pieced together, and becomes basically the second half of my book, Abu Qadir and a small band of fellow librarians had managed to pull off one of the great capers, I think, of modern times, and had managed in a 3-stage operation to, first of all, hide the manuscripts from the jihadis by moving them out of the libraries in the dead of night into safe houses scattered around the city. When things became too hot in Timbuktu, and it looked like that was not enough to protect them, Hyder and his guys undertook the next stage of the operation, which was even more ambitious, which involved bringing in hundreds of young people, most of them very trusted sons, cousins, nephews, many of them teenagers, but they trusted them with carrying these manuscripts by road out of Timbuktu through 606 miles of desert and semi-desert, across the border through checkpoints manned by jihadists, across government territory through checkpoints manned by very hostile, suspicious government troops, to safe houses in government territory in Bamako, the capital. That was phase 2. Actually, to phase 3. Phase 3 happened while this stuff was going on. The river was the roads by then were considered to be too dangerous to continue the operation. By the time the French invaded in the country, they had managed to get about 60 or 70% of the manuscripts out of Timbuktu by road to safety. But now suddenly, remember, you had a French air attack combined with a French ground forces going in. As I said, in January 2013, I followed a convoy, easy dusty highway for many, many miles with kids waving the tricolor, and it was really a dramatic scene as they headed up to liberate Timbuktu. So, but obviously, these roads became too dangerous to move manuscripts in the other directions. So as these bombs were falling, chaos, just you can imagine, total chaos going on up there. This actually is a shrine. This is one of the things that the jihadis did. They got the smugglers, Abu Qadir and his guys, so worried, because this is the remains of a Sufi shrine. We haven't even talked about the kind of rule of the jihadis, which included the usual Sharia amputations, executions, destruction of cultural artifacts like these Sufi shrines. The manuscripts, of course, were on the list of things that would likely be destroyed, which is what the smuggling operation was all about. Good thing we got through that. So you can understand what the motivation was. There were no direct threats early on to destroy the manuscripts, but Abdul Qadir saw the kind of horrors that was going on around him in Timbuktu and realized that these manuscripts were not going to be safe. The last phase of this operation was, as I said, they decided the only way they could safely move out the rest was by the river. And that is what they did in phase 3. They recruited boatmen, and over the course of 3 weeks, as the French were moving in, because the French operation took a while, they moved out basically every manuscript that they could find, a total of about all 350,000, to the safety of Bamako. The only ones, let me see if I thought I saw that picture, give me one sec. Oh, there we go, perfect. You may remember, and I think I referred briefly, the last days, literally hours before the French army arrived, a group of paratroopers from the Foreign Legion, the Deuxième Bec, which I had the pleasure of visiting for another unrelated story in Corsica last fall. A group of paratroopers as well as ground forces came into Timbuktu. As the troops were on their way into the city, within hours before they arrived, the jihadists went on a rampage and they pretty much gathered up every manuscript that they could get their hands on, which consisted of about 4,000 of them. Most of them works about science and medicine and geometry, algebra, really reflecting kind of great our mathematical thinkers of that era, made a big pile of them, doused them with gasoline and set them on fire. And I think that news came out pretty early. I remember being in Mali and hearing over BBC and Radio France Internationale about this. That was documented early on, this destruction. This was about 6 months later, this picture here. And this was in the Ahmed Baba Center, the government library, main government library in Timbuktu. The full story, what happened was, we kind of pieced this together, was that this was a beautiful building, $8 million building, donated by Thabo Mbeki, the president of South Africa, who had come up there in 2003, seeing this manuscript recovery operation, become so moved by it, that he donated a lot of money. They built quite an impressive structure, housed about 30,000 great volumes there. However, because it was such a big fortress, when the jihadis came into town, it was the first building that they seized and turned into barracks. So they were holding this building from the beginning of the occupation until the last day of the occupation, basically living side by side with these manuscripts, doing their military training. And it was only in those last hours that they decided to take their revenge and grab and either get revenge against the West. Who knows what was going on in their heads? I mean, these were books prized by UNESCO, which equals France, which equals the West. Books prized by the people of Timbuktu. Obviously, maybe the secular aspect of some of them got me pissed off as well. Whatever. So for whatever reason, a combination of reasons, as Al-Qaeda had imagined and feared, they targeted them at the very end and destroyed whatever they could. So in a way, some people have asked Al-Qaeda, this incredible effort that you make, you put these teenagers at risk, who knows, there were moments when people were caught at roadblocks and questioned, interrogated, arrested. There were close calls. You put these people at risk. I should also say that for much of this time, he was down with his family in Bamako, the safety of Bamako, sort of organizing this from the safety of government territory, which is why the New York Times reviewer questioned just how badass Al-Qaeda really was. Well, as I said, the title is Badass Librarians, plural, so there were plenty of other badasses doing the real on-the-ground work there. But Al-Qaeda replied, and look at what happened to the Al-Qaeda Institute. Had these books not been taken out, who knows? They had a day or two before the French arrived. Who knows how many they could have destroyed during that time? We'll never know. And even if it was a futile and an unnecessary exercise, which we will never know, it's still a pretty amazing achievement and a victory for for culture, for national patrimony, against some pretty nasty folks. It's finished. So, but I thought I would just read maybe one small section to give you a feeling for this book. And I mean, really, there's several different. As I said, there's several different. This is really about 3 stories in one. It's a story about Abdul Qadir and his obsession for the manuscripts and his almost single-handed effort as a young man to rescue them, bring them back out of obscurity. It's a story about the rise of jihadism in Africa, how this group kind of came to power and managed to seize practically an entire country. And it's the story of the rescue that ensued after the jihadists came to power. And the triumph of these forces represented by Al-Qaeda against the radicals, a story that we see playing out across the Middle East now, which happened here several years earlier. But so Abdul Qadir was a real, in addition to being a librarian, he was an adventurer, he traveled around, he was a shrewd negotiator, he knew how to encourage people, to reassure people. He met a lot of hostility as he was trying to get these manuscripts out of people's hands so he could bring them to the National Library. And this is just a small scene that shows Abdul Qadir at work as a young man. This is from about 1984, when he was just starting his, what he called, he was a prospecteur. So this was, which in a way, he was hunting for gold, essentially. So, literally, gold leaf, So, here's a scene of, as I said, he would go out into the countryside, really unobtrusive, dressed humbly, so as not to give any indication that he had a lot of money behind him. They never took a vehicle because he feared that a vehicle would immediately create a distance between him and the villagers. The whole idea was to disarm these people and persuade them to give up what many of them viewed as family heirlooms, priceless volumes that really defined who they were, and defined their families for centuries. So, okay, he had a hard time at first, he wasn't getting anywhere, but gradually he began to make progress. It's just a couple of pages. People also sensed that Hyder was playing fair. After nearly being run out of Gorma Rauruts, the first town he had visited, Hyder returned there a year later. On his first afternoon back in town, a Tuareg nomad in his 40s, a gaunt man in a ragged turban, with half a dozen children playing around in the sand, called out to him in Greek as he passed by his tent. "Come inside," he cried. Hyder entered the traditional dwelling, stitched together from goat skins, and sat on the ground in the semi-darkness. He noticed a metal chest at the rear of the tent, the type normally used to hold manuscripts. "Where do you come from?" said the Tuareg. "I'm from Timbuktu," replied Hyder in Tamashek, the language of the Tuaregs. In addition to his native Songboy, he was conversant in Payul and Tamashek, the 2 other main languages of Mali's north, as well as in French, and thus had no problem negotiating with manuscript owners across the region. Hyder made small talk, and seeing that the Tuareg was too poor even to offer his visitor a cup of tea, he offered to purchase some food and drink for him and his family. Hyder ran out to the market and returned with half a slaughtered lamb and a kilogram bag of tea. The Tuareg grilled the lamb outside the tent, and as they sat eating in the sand with the man's family, Hyder gently broached the subject of manuscripts. "I don't have any of those," the Tuareg said. "I only have printed books." "Can I take a look?" asked Hyder. "Why not?" Hyder opened the trunk and poured through the volumes. Buried among the printed material was one work that caught his eye, a Quran from the 17th century. He looked through it carefully, noting the delicate Maghrebi letters, the fragile gilt that caught the late afternoon light filtering through the tent flap. It was, Hyder realized, a masterpiece. "How much do you want for this?" asked Hyder. "Whatever you want to give me," the owner said, shrugging. "You have to name your price." "Give me 5,000 CFA. or about $10, the nomad said. It was a pitifully low sum. Hyder could not accept it. They bargained, but this time the buyer was bidding up the price. No, the treasure has a huge value, he replied. 10,000 CFA. No, said Hyder. 20,000. Hyder gave him 100,000 CFA. The man received the money wide-eyed. If I got more books like these, would you pay for them, he asked? Of course. At 5 o'clock the morning after that, in total darkness, Hyder heard a knock on his door. Who's that? Hyder said. The Tuareg entered his room carrying a large camel skin sack. Wordlessly, he dumped the pile of manuscripts on the ground. In the murkiness before dawn, Hyder could barely see what was lying there. But at 6 o'clock, golden light filtered through his window, illuminating magnificent treasure. When Hyder stepped outside the hut later that morning, he stared in astonishment. Tuaregs from across the region had formed a long line bearing camel and sheepskin sacks stuffed with manuscripts. Many had been hidden in caves or holes in the sand for decades. Hyder handed out the equivalent of thousands of dollars, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia had subsidized the effort, and left with more than 1,000 manuscripts. He had paid the sellers everything they had demanded and even more. He had taken everything they had. Hyder headed back upriver to Timbuktu, his boat riding low in the water, weighed down with footlockers and piles of camel skin sacks. In Timbuktu, Mahmoud Zubair looked on with astonishment. That's the curator of the library. You found all that, he said. In his first year of work at the Ahmed Baba Institute, Hyder managed to acquire as many manuscripts as the previous team of 8 prospectors had collected in a decade. So, there's a long chapter. He put them in, on camels, or he put them in, he often traveled, hitched himself to a convoy to a caravan. I don't think he rarely came away with a trove like this. But yeah, there are other scenes in the story where you see him with mules, and he had to buy mules as well to transport the manuscript. So, but this time, in many cases, put them in boats and floated them up the river. Yeah.
Since this is so culturally rich, can you talk about the title?
I will talk about the title. It's a question that a lot of people ask. People are, in fact, I've been asked to write a piece for an online magazine about the title. And there has been a little bit of a debate both in the letters column of the New York Times and in some of the reviews. Some have taken issue with the title. Other people love the title, so I'm going to deal with all of that. Actually, it wasn't my idea. If I had a boring title, like tentative placeholder title, like Rescue or something, and a junior editor at Simon & Schuster, my publisher, was reading the manuscript, making line-edit suggestions, and just at one point just wrote in the margin, these guys are badass, sort of an enthusiastic, impromptu comment. And my editor, my direct editor, for whom she was working, picked up on that and said, this is going to be our title. This was back in maybe the summer of 2015, or fall of 2015. The book came out in April this year. And I had to, I was initially, I was taken aback and not sure about it, and it seemed a little in your face, and I don't know, it seemed maybe like Hunter, some people would think it was going to be a Hunter Thompson type, swaggering story, and one of my books not entirely my writing style. But I ran it by my agent and other people, and most people liked the idea and thought, you need to attract attention to a subject like this. This is a great market to get people talking and noticing. And that ultimately became the most important factor in deciding what's this going. And so whatever anybody says, the criticism, I can deal with criticism. In fact, I can overwhelm with people noticing the book because of the title. Yeah.
I love that section you read. You put me right in the center of becoming the Torah. That happened 11 years before you first went there. So how did you work as a journalist? How did you
this is if you're in the narrative journalism business, you have to develop a skill at doing this. I mean, it requires you kind of this is great. As you're talking, I spent many hours talking to Al-Qaeda. I would say we spent about 12, 14 hours together, maybe even more over the course of a month. And all in French, I'm bragging. You know, I recognized this was a scene. As he was telling it, I knew this is a scene. I've got to use this. You know, so I almost think I'm thinking cinematically here, and I just drew him out. You know, and there were other moments that I missed. You know, certainly when you're in the interview. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to meet him in Brussels for another round of interviews, like 6 months later. You know, all the stuff that I wanted to be more cinematic that hadn't sort of captured at that time. I was lucky enough to have another shot to do it. So that's what we do because we're not actually present. Yeah.
Did you make notes at the time? Is that how you?
As I was doing the reporting, a digital tape recorder is almost always the way because you know, it's hard to translate. You know, I mean, if I'm making notes, somebody speaking French, my instinct is to just immediately translate it into English as I'm taking notes, and then it just slows everything down. So I just use a tape recorder and I spent many hours afterwards going over it all. It's tremendously time consuming.
Yeah. Your book is so visual and accurate. Did you already get some proposals to transform it into a film?
Yeah, we've had a few people come up to me personally at some of the book talks that I gave in the US, and then I got some emails, but I don't know, I kind of give everything to my literary agent, and I haven't heard anything. I don't know if anything's going to happen with it. It's hard to really imagine. You know, there was a wonderful movie called Timbuktu that was made by a Malian, you know, and it's hard to imagine. I almost think it would have to be a Malian film director or somebody, or you know, making a local person making a movie. You couldn't transfer the story somewhere else. It has to be in Mali, and so of course that makes Hollywood less interested, and it's going to be would be an art house movie. And I don't know how this would be. I think there is a movie here, but I don't know how it would be done.
Can you tell us where the books are now and how you see things unfolding in Mali? Because I mean, another way of looking at this is to say, if nobody had ever moved them, they had never been collected into a collection of 350 journals, they'd probably all still be hidden.
Yeah, but they were also falling apart. You also have to remember that they were really, I saw some of these books early on, these are the ones that had been recently, and they were just disintegrating. I mean, somebody had to make an effort to
So
get them
how
out
do
of
you
this.
see things developing?
Well, do you want to know where the books are now first? Should I tell you what? Okay, so they have been through like various stages. They were first just stashed in people's basements. And then for a while, and then they were moved to like 10 safe houses. 10. They got some Al-Qaeda got some money from these donors, and they moved them to about 10 or a dozen large storage spaces that were well climate controlled, and then Then, strangely enough, a Benedictine monk from Minnesota who was had a big piece about him in The Economist a while ago, who has he's a manuscript expert, and he's saved manuscripts from Syria and Iraq, and he took charge of this operation. I guess he has a lot of money. He's made many trips to Bamako, and everything has now been consolidated into one large building, all 350,000. They're being digitized, and I guess more work is being done to prepare them, and they're just waiting for the time when they feel they could be moved back up to Timbuktu. And right now is not the time. No.
Saudi Arabia and Dubai and countries like that.
I think it's been taken over. I don't know, maybe they're giving money. I don't really know what they're engaged in. Saudi Arabia, ironically, being the country that also exported the Wahhabism that helped to unite Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb takeover of the country. So, and we're also major donors in manuscript. Saudi Arabia. ceases to amaze. Yes?
You mentioned UNESCO had some kind of stake in this at one time. Has the United Nations played any sort of custodial role?
You know, I haven't heard of any sort of UN involvement in this. This all seems to be private money going in. Right now, as I said, this monk, who's a well-funded monk in Minnesota, I don't know where his money comes from, but he's the guy. If you Google Benedictine monk Mali economist, you'll find a fascinating article about him.
Have you looked at the story of how the artworks from the Louvre were saved? It's very similar to what you described.
Which artworks? Did you mean during World War II?
Yeah, World War II, yeah.
Yeah.
A multi-stage process, safe houses, a bonfire, I mean, it's really very similar.
Fantastic. Well, then people have said this is a bit like Monuments Men meets Indiana Jones. One critic said that, which is quite massive. So yeah, I don't know the story. It sounds pretty amazing. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.